Our second lesson in our fourth grade series is on form and value. Grade 4, our big idea is artists create art based on life experiences. We're working on Module 3, artists document people and their lives, value, to transform a two-dimensional shape into what appears to be a three-dimensional shape, and use contrast expressively in an original work of art. Our objective is to understand how value changes allow us to see the form of what we're observing. And let's take a look at basic forms, and we can see that the value changes are what show us that something is rounded or flat. First, we need to define value. Usually I just draw a value scale on the board very quickly and let the students know that value can be any color. It's not grays, it's all colors. And so many times there are lots of blues in the class, so I'll have maybe 5 or 6 students get up and we'll put them into a value scale according to the color blue they're wearing, and they kind of get that. So if we look at these forms, we can see the highlights and we can see the shadows. We can see the cast shadows. So those are what we're going to be talking about. And I also remind the students that from our last lesson that we can take the basic shapes and we can turn them, we can twist them, we can bend them, and we still know how to draw them because we know how to draw the basic shapes. So let's take a look here. Here's a house built on the side of the hill out in the Pacific Palisades of California, and I have them look, and we see that this face of the building is a little bit lighter than this. This is darker than both of these, and it's darker at the bottom because we've got the hill shading it. And we discuss why it's getting a little bit lighter here. So we're seeing the faces of this form. Then in this home, which is in Greece, we look at how the sun is hitting the cylinders and how we've got the highlight, and then we go into shadow here. We've got a rectangular prism here, and we can see the side shaded in that's away from the sun. We can see this curved wall, which would be part of a cylinder, and we can see the light going into shadow very gradually as it does with a curve. And we can see the rectangular prisms here where we see the sides away from the sun going into shadow. So we discuss these so it seems very real to us rather than just drawings. Then I like to show them, this of course is Disney Hall, and I like to show them that from different angles and at different times of day, we're going to have completely different shadows, and we see a very different look between this photographer's shot and this photographer's shot, almost as if there's a color difference. And we talk about that and the fact that, for instance, on this piece, how much more light we see here and dark. So we have a lot more contrast. So we talk about how this is smooth, and then we see a lot more contrast here and here than we do here and here, just because of where the sun's hitting the building. And then I show them this one. This is in a museum in Lithuania designed by Zaha Hadid, and we look at the curves, and we particularly notice that things away from the sunlight, like the underside of the museum, is definitely dark. So we get the idea of the curves and the shadows and how the sun's hitting it. And we look at outdoor shots because obviously we're going to have much more contrast in outdoor shots because we just have one light source, the sun. So at that point, I tell them we are going to learn to put value on them, and I'm using the sketching charcoal that is in the stick form, and I usually, quiz them on what's charcoal, where does it come from. We finally get to its burned wood, and then I show them that there are little pock marks on the stick where the leaves used to be attached. So, which is the most common of the forms? They remember rectangular prism, and we're going to put a rectangular prism up here. And we talk about how our we talk about how we're going to have the parts become an artwork too. So we'll put a rectangular prism here, we'll put our cylinder maybe crossways diagonally, and then we'll put a sphere down here. So we want to stay away from the edges of the paper. We don't want to get too close, so I usually have them just make some little lines with the hand so they can see. And I tell them make it about the size of maybe a soda can. And we go ahead and make our rectangle. And we talk about parallel to the edges of the paper, parallel to each other again. And I make certain that I don't use the two sides that I did in the original drawing last week that we talked about, or last lesson. So we're going to put our parallel line on one side, and again I'm making it go longer than it needs to be so they don't head for the ends of the line, and one here. And then I say, okay, what do we do next? Well, we put the slanted line between the corners, and then we put the same line here and the same line here. And then I show them that with charcoal we can just rub it out and that it won't matter. We're going to have the messiness become part of the artwork. So if our light source, and I'm going to talk about the light source being up here. So if our light source is up here, where are we going to see the most light? Well, we're going to see it here. Where are we going to see the least light? On the bottom. So this will be our middle tone here. And we want to go ahead and put the darkest tone at the bottom. And I show them how to just put it on and then rub it in with the finger. Then we'll go ahead and put the lightest tone up here. I tell them not to be concerned about being neat. And we get our light tone up here. And then we want the middle tone on this side. And let's get that there. Okay, let's see if we got a middle tone or if it's too close to what our light tone is. It's a little close to the light tone, so I'm going to darken it up. And I tell them it doesn't have to have huge contrast. It's just enough so that we can see that we've turned a corner. And again, I'll put this here. And we have our rectangular prism right here. Now, just for the fun of it, I show them that if they put a line right here, and there would be light coming up here, we can make this a little bit darker, and we can make it look like the box is open on the bottom. There we go. So, we're getting that in. Again, my box isn't looking very open, is it? So let's make it a little bit darker. There. So it looks like the box is open and we're looking up into it. Now we want to do our cylinder. And I explained that if we want something to be, if we want it to be slanted, that doesn't mean we have to draw it slanted. We can simply turn our paper. So we're going to turn our paper this way so we can get our slant going that way. And we're going to draw, and I say, okay, how do we draw a cylinder? Start out with two parallel lines. And then what? And they'll tell me, you know, happy line, and we talk about why we say that. Again, because we want these two lines to be the same, and then sad line, so we get the effect of an ellipse. Then I tell them to just watch, don't do this one with me. And I show them, and I say, okay, if the light's coming this way, where are we going to have the most shadow? On the underside, which will be here. So our highlight is going to be here. And so we're just going to zigzag back and forth, and I make sure they understand we want to keep this line right here fuzzy, unless we're drawing something metal that would be very shiny. So we're just going back and forth, making that, and we can go here. Then on this side, just a little bit, again, going back and forth so we can keep that edge looking pretty fuzzy. And we have a really big highlight on this. So then I show them, and then I ask them, okay, what do you remember about lines on a rounded surface? Oh, they have to be curved. Okay, so I can go ahead here just to fill that in. But now when I go this way, I've got to make curved lines, and I can follow these curves. So I'm going to brush, and I'm lifting my finger as I go so that I'm sweeping in, and then I can do it on the other side. And there's our cylinder. Make sure we're curving. And it's about even. There we go. And now I tell them, since the light's coming this way, what about inside the top? Where's that going to be? So they realize that it's going to be darkest inside here, and a little bit light, and the less light part will be over here. So we again follow that top curve and fill in that. Then we can go around, get the top of it, and there's our cylinder. Now they're really getting interested because they're sure they can do this, and they all do a good job. So once everybody gets their cylinder drawn, then we're going to work on the sphere. And I tell them not to worry too much about getting a perfect sphere or a perfect circle to start with. And we ask, okay, where is the highlight going to be on this? The light's coming this way, our highlight's going to be here. So our highlight's going to be here. Do we want to draw a line around it? No, because it has to be subtle. But if our highlight's here, then our shadow is going to be crescent shaped under here, so we can just move back and forth again, keeping that fuzzy edge, and get that shadow in there. Then I usually go around a little bit more, so I have a little bit more charcoal to work with up there. And I remind them that you can always add charcoal, but you cannot take it away. So I go ahead and have them put this crescent-shaped shadow in, which is the core shadow. And then they sit and watch. So this I explain again. Okay, what kind of lines do we make on a curved surface? Great, we make curved lines on a rounded surface. And I'm going to start going around, just making this even in here. And then I start sweeping toward my highlight. So I'm sweeping toward the highlight. But look what I'm doing now. Now I've got to start curving the other direction. And I can keep curving in toward that highlight. But I still have a lot of work to do here. I've got a good bit of charcoal. That's exactly what I need. And I'm sweeping in, but I'm not getting into the middle yet. I'm staying away from it. And I want to get it. So now I show them that if I use stirring kind of motions with my finger, and I lighten up on the pressure on my finger and barely touch the paper, I'm going to start getting that look where it's looking like a sphere. And just lighter and lighter until we get to that one little point. And then, let's go here. I'm going to put a little bit of darker right in here. Just smooth that in and get a little bit darker so we can make it a little bit stronger core shadow. And then I show them that they can take another finger and take a little bit of that out where we've got the reflected light on the bottom. And there are our three pieces. By this time, everybody's really messy and they're all upset about their papers being messy. And I tell them, okay, in art, when we have a mess, we incorporate it and we just make it part of it. So I show them, let's give it a Dalmatian effect. Do this. And clean your hands on your paper at the same time. Find out where you go. Get it all over the paper, wherever you've got this. We can use it. Just have them clean their hands off on the paper. Because now we're going to turn this practice sheet into a work of art. And this is where they get to put their personal stamp on it. And once we get that on, I have them get their crayons. And this is where they get to personalize it. They can do anything they want. I just do something very simple for them. I show them that we can put all kinds of colored lines on it. You can put asterisks. We can put spirals. There are just so many different colors and things we can do here.